Hi Vince, Shanika here. We'll just wait for the rest of them. Vince, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. I can hear you too.
I'm not supposed to be on. Oh, she has me as, I don't know.
Hey, Shanika. Hey, Vince. Sorry about that. Shanika, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, I was trying to get my background to work. And then I'm also trying to, can you enable my share screen mode
Yeah.
so I can have that?
You should have it now.
Should have it now. No, it says host disabled.
Tanisha, is that working now?
No. Let's see. Yes.
Got it.
Okay. How are you, Vince?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Tanisha, just I had a conversation with Taliki, and is it possible?
Shanika, can the attendees hear us?
Only the ones I've allowed to. Give me a second. Yeah, if you can.
Can you put Ken in, please?
Yeah, give me a second. Oh, Tanisha, you're gonna have to make me host. I've just made you host so you could share the thing, but you're gonna have to remake it, make me host. Because for some reason, as panelists, you said you weren't getting screen sharing, but you should. So just go into the corner if you can and make me host. Is that possible?
Yep, I hit multiple. And for those of you who have been let in already, thank you so much for getting in early. We are excited to have you, and we are looking forward to having a great discussion. So bear with us a few minutes as we are getting everything all set up for you.
Tanisha,
Yeah,
it hasn't changed me to host. Oh, okay, wait, give me a second. Ken should be joining as a panelist now. Ken, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect. We should have all panelist privileges now.
Great. Hey, Vince, how you doing?
I'm good, Ken. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Tanisha, could I just ask, so at the beginning or before you just start?
Shanika, hit the chat.
Yeah, I can see. Can I just ask at the beginning, you take a registration, so you ask everybody there to just put their names in the chat so we can keep track of everybody who joined today.
You got it.
Thank you.
And thank you for those who started doing it already. You guys are on the ball. And if you could, for those of you who are already in, don't just give me your name, give me where you're from, okay? So if you are, for example, from an elected's office, just put the name of the elected that you work for. If you're someone who is interested in cannabis, just put in parentheses, interested. And good evening to you all. Oh, I see some interested. So bear with us as we're letting everyone in. We'll be starting in a few minutes. I just want to check, everyone's seeing my screen okay? Ken, can you give me a thumbs up? Vince, can you give me a thumbs up?
Yep, I can see it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm just going to stop sharing for a second there. Wow, the numbers are starting to go up. Okay, Shanika, continue to let folks in. I see those numbers.
I am, and if we could just repeat, everyone who's here, could you put your name in the chat box?
Yep, I will take care of that, Shanika. Thank you. Well, I will definitely say the numbers are definitely going up, and hello to everyone who is logging in. This is going to be workshop series number 1, and we're going to be getting started in approximately 1 minute. All righty, it is now officially 6:30 according to my watch. Thank you so much to everyone who has joined us. I see the numbers are still going up. So please, everyone, make sure that you put your name in the chat. Tell us if you are from an elected's office or if you are here because you are interested in finding out the basics, the business basics of, do you have the right weed sense? Business sense. Let me say that again. Do you have the right weed business sense? This workshop is being conducted by yours truly, Tanisha Walker Miller. I am so grateful to the Black Institute and also to the Black Institute Group, which is run and founded by Miss Bertha Lewis. Unfortunately, Bertha is not with us tonight, but she wants everyone to know that she is listening, she is watching, and she will definitely be so excited to see all of you for the workshop number 4, which is going to be on October 4th. So just friendly reminders. Here's a little bit of some Zoom etiquettes that I want to make sure everybody is aware of moving forward for this workshop tonight. 1, there is going to be a Q&A section for this. There will be, yes, and I will repeat, there will be opportunities for you to have your questions answered. If we can't answer it verbally, we will do our best to make sure that we get the answers to you either via email or via chat. So please do not think that we are not going to answer your questions. You have a great panel that is going to be discussing and having conversations with you tonight. And I want to make sure that we give them the most amount of time possible to be able to provide you with information pertaining to this particular workshop. So if everybody is ready, I want you to write in the chat, ready. All righty, I'm seeing the numbers going up. All right, let's see if I can hit 30. I want to see 30 readies. Let's go. Did we hit it? Yeah, we went over. All right, here we go. So presenting tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is of course, as I said, yours truly, Tanisha Walker Miller. I am the founder and CEO of the Source Consulting Group, and I'm also a senior advisor to Capilino, which is one of the top lobby firms here in New York. I am an MWBE specialist that specializes in making sure that minority women businesses get their fair share. And what I mean by fair share, I'm not just talking about fair share as being certified. I mean fair share in terms of opportunities. Can we say opportunities? Can we say money? Can we say contracts? That is what I am about. And on this wonderful panel, I have some leading experts who are going to talk to you about the business of cannabis. That is why you are here, and that is what you want to talk about. So I'm going to stop talking and just very briefly say who your panelists are for tonight. So we are joined by Executive Director, Chief Development Officer, Black Enterprise, which is also known as BNYC, Mr. Ken Eby. We are also joined by Vincent Field, who is the Vincent Field, an application specialist and consultant for Audacious. So these two wonderful gentlemen are going to be talking to you guys about what it means to be a business, you know, what it means to be registered. And of course, I'm going to be chiming in too, because, you know, I can't quite sit back and not say anything during this panel. So we're going to talk about what it means to be considered a business in New York. We're also going to talk about how do you register a business with New York City, and do you need to be an MWBE? And I know Ken is going to chime in for that one. And we're also going to talk about what are the key requirements to be recognized as a business by OCM. And I know Vince is going to have a lot to say on that, especially in the area when it comes to social equity and what the application process looks like and the deadlines that are coming up. And of course, as I said, we will have Q&A. So make sure you get your questions in the chat and we will be monitoring it. I'm sorry, let me just back up 1 second. I do apologize. I said your questions go in the chat. I'm incorrect. Your questions go into the Q&A box. So if you look on your screen, there is a Q&A box. Put your questions in the Q&A box. Okay, so I do apologize for that. So as I said, put your questions, see, I had to give myself a reminder. Put your questions in the Q&A box and we will answer them there. So let's get down to business, shall we? So what are some of the key requirements to start a business here in New York City? That's a question that I know has been, the subject of many conversations here in New York, especially when you're talking about folks who are looking to get into the cannabis space. So I want to make sure that you guys have a true understanding of what it means to be a business in New York. So you're not just jumping in blind. Okay, because a lot of times folks say, I want to start a business, but you don't know the background on how to start that business. So I want to make sure that you have some basics, such as come up with a name for your business. And yes, when you're coming up with a name, make sure that it's a name of a business that you can be proud of, because you're going to carry that name for a very long time in this industry. So make sure you have a name that's respectable for not just you, but for also for those who are looking and seeking to work with you. Determine whether or not your business will be a limited liability corporation or a corporation. So a lot of people say they are an LLP or an LLC or just a corporation. And Vince and Ken, please jump in if I'm missing any information on this. I want to make sure that you guys have all the information and all the right tools. And when you're doing starting a business, you also want to make sure that you have a federal tax ID number, and also known as an EIN number, because you're going to need that EIN number to open up a business checking account. Yes, I said it, a business checking account. You cannot have a business with a personal checking account. You have to have a business checking account. And that is sometimes can be a problem for a lot of folks that are starting out with a business. They forget, or they're not aware, or sometimes they're not told that they have to have a business checking account. So Ken, did I miss anything on that aspect of it?
As always, you're on point, Tanisha.
Thank you. And then for those of you who've never had a business, when you're starting a business, there's going to be some areas that, you need to make sure when you're looking to, for example, become certified as a minority woman-owned business here in the city. So in order to be certified, you have to make sure that you own your business either 100% or have at least 51% majority ownership in order to be able to apply for the Minority Women Business Enterprise certification for both the city and the state. And another tidbit I want you to remember is that you need to make sure that you keep, and I repeat, keep all of the documentations that you use to establish your business, because, and I can tell you personally, if you stick those papers in a drawer, and then when the time comes to fill out an application, it can take days, months, or weeks if you're not organized to try and find those documents. So please keep those documents in a safe place, in a file cabinet, titled and filed correctly. So without further ado, I'm going to stop right here talking, because I know you guys didn't sign up to hear me talk, like I said in the beginning. I want to turn it over a little bit to Ken to give you a little bit of background information on how the city outlines what a business looks like and what the city is doing in regards to cannabis. And then from there, we're going to jump into Vince, because Vince is going to have a lot to say in regards to this space. And gentlemen, I do have questions for you that I'm going to pull up on the screen. So I don't want you to think that I'm just going to let y'all talk and talk and talk. We're going to have some questions for you, because we got some questions already popping up in the chat. So Ken, I'm going to turn it over to you for a few minutes to talk a little bit about the city in terms of being a business, because you are, so instrumental in helping minority women businesses in the Black Entrepreneurship Program. So I want to make sure that you talk about, BNYC. So Ken, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Tanisha, and thank you to Ms. Bertha Lewis for inviting us all to be here and to speak about this important topic. It's of tremendous concern and importance. I think the city is very focused on making sure that the rollout of the regulated cannabis industry in New York City is done in a way that is equitable and that provides the most economic opportunity to prioritize the communities that have been most significantly impacted by the war on drugs, the federal prohibition on drugs. And I go, in terms of my background on this issue, go back to prior to my new role. It's new, it's a year and a half, but to my current role at the New York City Department of Small Business Services, heading up the city's Black Entrepreneurs NYC initiative. It goes all the way back to about a decade ago when I first met and worked with a gentleman who was running to be the first Black Brooklyn district attorney, the late Ken Thompson. And so it was in that work where this campaign that was run really spoke about the issues of kind of the disparate impact, the disparate and unfair enforcement of cannabis laws and particularly possession of small amounts of marijuana by Black and brown, primarily Black and brown young men, and the economic impact that this is having on their communities, our communities. So it's really full circle for me to come back in this role to be speaking about what the city is doing to make sure that we get this right, that we put the people who have been impacted by the disparities of the enforcement at the front of the line, and make sure that the distribution of the economic opportunity and also awareness of some of the concerns, right? Public health, safety, et cetera, are heard and prioritized. So great to be here. As Tanisha mentioned, I'm the Executive Director and Chief Development Officer of Black Entrepreneurs NYC. We are an initiative of the New York City Department of Small Business Services. And the real focus of our effort is to address the racial wealth gap through entrepreneurship and business ownership. The Department of Small Business Services is really the city's public economic development engine. We appreciate the fact that New York City is really run by, fueled by the ingenuity, the hustle, the grind of small business owners. And so we're an agency that's set up really to provide resources, support, programs for people who are trying to start businesses, people who are trying to scale businesses. And Tanisha alluded to the fact that we do have a program that is focused on getting businesses that are predominantly owned by minorities or women, otherwise known as minority women-owned business enterprises, certified with the City of New York so that you can do business potentially with the City of New York, not looking at the government as just a regulator or as an enforcement arm, but looking at the government as a potential customer. And so we provide this service to try and get individuals and businesses that can qualify to understand the requirements and then to get certified for that purpose. So Tanisha, you asked the question about what does the city look for? I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of the documentation that's required for you to stand up a business. You need to incorporate what your business is in some sort of legal form, whether it's an LLC or that's a limited liability corporation or an LLP, limited liability partnership, depending on what your needs are, depending on the types of employees you're going to have. You have to get that documentation straight, and you have to get your EIN number. You have to file your articles of incorporation with the state of New York. And all of those things are required in order for you to say that you run a business. And then there's some other things. But in the interest of time, I think that the important thing is that once you have set up a business, you can come to the New York City Department of Small Business Services. Actually, before you set up a business, you can come to the New York City Department of Small Business Services to really get some of the basics on how you can run a successful business. One of the facts that not too many people know, it's little discussed and not much is said about it, but within 5 years, 50% of businesses that start fail. So if you start a business today, if you don't have the right tools, you don't have the right framework, you don't have the right support, the chances are that within 5 years, you will be out of business. So that's important, particularly on this issue, when we're talking about people who are looking to get licenses, limited number of licenses. In this particular round of licenses, there are up to 150 licenses that are being issued by the state of New York. And so the city is really focused on partnering with New York State to make sure that if you apply for one of these licenses, you will get the support that you need from the Department of Small Business Services. And if you get one of these licenses, you will get continued support from the Department of Small Business Services, New York City, to make sure that you retain that license and that you have a successful business. Because ultimately, the economic opportunity comes on the back end from being able to run a successful business, not just to get a license. So the Department of Small Business Services will help you get the tools to stand up your business, provide you with insights into things such as, if you're trying to run a business, how do you lay out what your business plan is, giving you some real hands-on support on drafting a business plan, thinking about your revenue, getting an understanding of some of the financial documents that you should keep track of, and then providing continued support through webinars and in-person training sessions so that you run a very successful business. So we're friends, we're partners, and particularly on this issue, on this particular topic, the City of New York and Mayor Eric Adams, our Commissioner Kevin D. Kim are adamant about focusing on equity. That means the communities that have been harmed by the war on drugs are at the front of the line and get the support that they need to thrive.
Thank you so much for that, Ken. I truly appreciate it. And I know that, this is a topic that's, something that you have been working on for a very long time. And, the work that you've been doing with SBS, I commend you for it. So thank you so much for your great service. So thank you. But now I wanted to get into the heart of, what a lot of folks are asking. I'm seeing the Q&As in the chat. I'm seeing, the questions that are popping up. I just want to first just make sure everyone is aware, in regards to the conditional phase, this conditional licensing that's going on right now with the state for the card. The application window for card closes on September 26, 2022. That's this year, not next year. That's this year. There's only, as Ken said, there's only 150 licenses that will be issued to those who meet the requirements. And we're going to talk about that. And then the applicants, just so you know, applicants must be majority owned and also be those that are justice involved individuals. The legacies, justice involved. I mean, Vince, you're going to go into a lot of that. So I'll leave that part for you. And then also applicants must have a significant presence in New York, meaning you have to have residency or assets, real estate, bank account, or previously owned at least 10%, of a business in order to be able to apply for this card license. There's been a lot of rumors, a lot of, back and forth. Folks are asking these questions. So I wanted to make sure that I highlighted this for you before Vince goes into talking to you about, the application process, social equity, for a business. But I just wanted to make sure, and I'll repeat it again, for those of you who are interested, those of you who fall under the requirements that are justice involved individuals, the application process closes on September 26th for the card. And the card is conditional adult use retail dispensary licenses. Okay. And on that note, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Mann. Vince.
Thank you, Tanisha. I thank you and Big for inviting me to this. I really appreciate it. I think it's incredibly important. I've been helping social equity applicants win licenses in the cannabis space since 2014. So this is an issue that is near and dear to my heart. Just a couple of points before I get started on sort of the basic eligibility requirements for the application, just to touch on something that you said and then something that Ken said. The part that you mentioned in terms of the importance of when you form your business, choosing a name that you can be proud of and that you understand will follow you for years. I think that's incredibly important for a reason related to licensing. So it's very common for people to create an entity. In fact, it's mostly required in every state that you create a business entity to go after one of these licenses. And people will create, LLCs that are like, 123 LLC or ABC LLC, something like that. But what they fail to realize is that the license is going to be issued in the name of that entity. And it can be more or less difficult to have doing business as name that's different from that LLC in certain states. And so you should be comfortable with the name of the business that you choose being not only the name on your license, but potentially even the name for your business as an actual dispensary. So just keep that in mind as you're forming those entities. And then to Ken's point about the value add here being on the back end, on having a successful business and being successful in business, I cannot emphasize enough how important that is. So in the good old days of 2014 through even just up until a couple of years ago, a lot of people applied for licenses, understanding that just the piece of paper was incredibly valuable, with the idea that they would flip it as soon as they won it. They would try to sell it to an interested party and could make significant money doing that. States have pretty much put an end to that, where they now require ownership to stay the same for 2 or 4 years after you get operational. So people should understand that really the value here is in not only winning the license, but getting all of those resources you need to set it up and to operate it successfully. So that is, what Ken said is hugely important, because that's really where the value is in this license. The days of having a piece of paper that is worth millions of dollars without doing anything to it to stand it up are over. And in fact, in New York, there's no ownership changes that are allowed, or even location changes that will be allowed for the first 2 years. People need to understand that you not only need to be eligible and apply and win one of these, but you have to be able to be successful in setting it up. And I think it's fantastic what the city of New York is doing to support applicants. That is not something that you see in most other states. But to get into the eligibility requirements, as you said, the deadline is September 26th, and there's going to be 150 licenses. You need to be justice involved to qualify. And again, as you mentioned, completely on point, at least 51% of the ownership of the entity that you're going to apply with has to be held by individuals who are justice involved. And that is defined as somebody who has been convicted of a cannabis-related offense in New York before March 31st of last year, or had certain family members who were convicted of a cannabis-related offense before March 31st of 2021. Importantly, at least one of the justice-involved individuals on the application has to have a 30% stake, or a minimum of a 30% stake. They also have to be listed as the individual who has sole control of the applicant. That means they have the ability to make decisions for the dispensary as a business. And it's that individual who has to have that significant presence in New York State. So whether that's through residency or assets or the other things that you mentioned. And then perhaps most importantly, that same individual, the justice involved individual who's going to have at least a 30% stake, also has to have what the state is calling qualifying business experience. And what that means is that they can show that they have at least, or had at least, a 10% stake in a business, as well as control of that business that had positive revenue or positive, profit essentially for a 2-year period. And there's lots of different ways that you can show that, and the business doesn't have to be related to cannabis. It doesn't even have to have been located in New York State. But so this person, this justice-involved individual that has that 30% or more stake really is the key component to any application. Because again, it's their significant presence in New York that's going to count. It's that person that will be listed as having sole control of the applicant, and it's their qualifying business experience that is going to matter. And again, you need to show that by showing that that person had at least a 10% stake in that business, whatever type of business it was, that they had control over the business, meaning that they had the ability to direct the management or direct and manage the business. And they need to be able to show that the business had 2 years of positive revenue. And so those are, the very basic eligibility requirements to apply. And, I'm sure there'll be lots of questions on that. For example, if you are not someone who was convicted yourself, who are the family members that qualify? That would be a parent, a legal guardian, a child, spouse, or dependent. But I can go through that again when we get to the Q&A period, if people have specific questions about whether they would qualify or not. I should also mention there's one little caveat on the conviction that's a cannabis-related offense. If you were arrested for a cannabis-related offense, but then ended up getting convicted of a lesser charge, you're still considered justice involved. There just has to have been a conviction, and you need to have been arrested at the very least for that cannabis-related offense. And again, all of these offenses needed to have occurred in New York State, unlike some other states that have allowed justice-involved individuals who've had convictions from any state to apply. New York is focused only on New York-based convictions.
You brought up some important points, Vince, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second.
Sure.
Because I'm looking at the Q&A that's in our chat. And a lot of questions have popped up that a lot of our attendees are asking in regards to not just, the convictions, but a lot of them are asking questions in regards to if they have a relative that was convicted, can they still qualify?
Yeah, so the state has a very good guidance document on this on their website, which essentially lists out all of the different sort of familial relationships and whether or not you would qualify. But the only relatives essentially that would qualify is if you had a parent, someone who's a legal guardian, a child, your spouse, or a dependent who was convicted of a cannabis-related offense before March 31st of last year. Those are the only relatives that count for the purposes of being justice involved.
And Vince, if you could just speak up a little bit louder, some folks are having a little bit of difficulty hearing you. So I do apologize. So if you could say that last part just say it one more time.
Yeah, I'm going to remove
I'm
these.
also going to raise
I'm
my
going to
volume
remove
as
these
well.
headphones because I don't think they're working very well. Is that a little bit better?
Yes.
Okay,
Sounds
perfect.
like we're much better now.
Awesome. So in terms of relatives, it needs to have been a parent, a legal guardian, child, spouse, or dependent who was convicted of a cannabis-related offense before March 31st of 2021 in order for you to be considered justice involved by virtue of having a relative who was convicted of a cannabis-related offense.
Okay. So I'm just going to take a few seconds here because there's so many questions here, and there was actually a question for you, Ken, in regards to what if I choose to be a sole proprietor?
Yeah, if you choose to be a sole proprietor, you can apply. You basically stand your company up as an LLC. You have 100% ownership, and you can apply for a license. That's not a disqualifier at all.
And then can you be incorporated in another state?
The focus is on New York, so the incorporation has to be in New York State. I should actually defer to Vince to provide the specifics there, but yeah, that's my understanding.
Yeah, that's correct. So you want to create a New York-based entity regardless. And it's, now it's for qualifying business experience and the purpose of, having that 10% or more in a business that can show that it had positive revenue for 2 years. That can be a business that's located anywhere, that was incorporated anywhere. But for the purposes of submitting an application, the entity should be a New York-based entity.
Okay, so I hope everyone heard that. You have to be a New York-based entity. I'm just gonna ask real quick because I know I'm seeing a couple of folks saying that they were having some volume issues with us. If you can hear us better now, just type better in the chat so I know if it's better. If not, we'll have our TBI expert fix our volume a little bit more. Better? Okay, thank you, Ann. Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you, Shaq. Appreciate it. Okay, moving right along. Much better, okay. All right. We did have a question for you, Ken, in regards to how do I become a part of B?
That's the number one question I love to answer. So how do you become a part of Black Entrepreneurs NYC? It's very simple. All you have to do is go to our website, and I can put that in the chat, but I'll give it to you right now. It is www.nyc.gov/BENYC. And just go there, you'll see the list of our programs. There's actually a link that you can click to say, sign up to provide me with updates, and that will subscribe you to our listserv. And just like that, you will be getting information on our events, on our programs. We're going to be rebooting, just to give you a little preview, our BNYC Mentors program, which provides aspiring and early stage entrepreneurs, business owners with industry specific mentors. That's one of the things that we have found from our initial report is a challenge that many aspiring entrepreneurs in the Black community do not necessarily have. And I'll tell you, relationships, mentorship, guidance is a critical part of running a successful business. It's not just about, all of the legal filings and having the capital. It's the relational capital is what I refer to. And so the BNYC Mentors program provides that both through one-on-one mentorship sessions and group cohort-based group mentor sessions. We have a large group training session we call our master classes. And so we've had individuals who've provided essentially lectures and similar to this, an opportunity to have a Q&A with really successful entrepreneurs. Folks may be a little bit young, but there was a basketball player who played in the NBA named John Sally, who's from Brooklyn, actually. And he played in the league, won a couple of championships, and he's a media mogul. He's an entrepreneur as well, and he recently got into the cryptocurrency space. I believe he's also in the cannabis space as well, and he provided some really good guidance in one of our BNYC master classes. In addition to the BNYC Mentors program, well, I should tell you, I can give you all of the information on the websites there. We do have a program for business owners who are looking to essentially get technical advice and support. Another thing that came out of our research was that a lot of businesses did not have the proper access to technical support, professional services such as lawyers, consultants, et cetera. So through a partnership with EY, which is a global consulting firm, we have been able to secure up to 2,000 hours of free consulting services from this global leader, EY. And so it's a simple application process. You have to indicate that you do have an operating business. This is for people who are beyond the idea stage, but you submit your application, you'll receive a call from our outreach specialists. And if you qualify, you'll be paired with a consultant from EY and you'll receive free consulting services. So these are the types of programs we run at BNYC. And it's very simple to answer your question. Go to www.nyc.gov/BENYC and sign up to our listserv, and you'll be getting our monthly newsletter and other information that'll help you start and scale your business. And be part of a community, which is a really important part of what we're building, which is community.
Yes. And I won't get jealous because you're using EY.
You can apply too, Tanisha. It's open to you too.
I know. I just had to pull your leg on that. But Vince, we do have a question for you in regards to expungement. So if someone has an expunged record, can they still be considered as part of the justice involved?
Yes, but what the state says about that is it really comes down to being able to provide the documents that show that they had that cannabis-related conviction at some point. So, this is about keeping, hopefully you have the record yourself. And if not, doing the work that you need to do in order to get that. But again, the state has a pretty good resource about this issue on their website that indicates some of the documents that you could provide. But I think the short answer is that if you know that you got a cannabis-related conviction, at some point in your past in New York State that qualifies, you should apply if you meet these other requirements. And if the documentation requirements are not fully complete, there'll be a deficiency process where the state will ask you to supplement that. But obviously you want to be as complete as you possibly can be when you provide those documents up front. But no, expungement is not something that would prevent anyone from applying. It's really just going to come down to being able to show that you did in fact have that conviction at some point in your past.
Now, this is a question that I not only saw in the chat, but I also have heard this question asked to OCM as well as to others. And this is either for you, Ken, or for Vince. What if a person, had a conviction from back in the 80s and they can't find their documentation? What can they do? Where could they go to get copies of their documentations? Some folks have been told you can go to the courts and get it, but where in the courts do you go? And what exactly do you get in terms of documentation that could be utilized for the application? So I guess it's a both of you questions. So who wants to go first?
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
start.
Vince, I'll defer to Vince.
Yeah, so I dealt with this issue most recently in Illinois, where people had convictions that went back a considerable amount of time. There are a couple of places you can go. One, if you know what precinct you were arrested, at, they will keep records, and you can go and make a request for paper records from them. Or you can go to the court and that had your case, and you would have to go physically to the courthouse, to the clerk of court, and ask for access to your record there. Those are the two places. For example, Cook County, Illinois, they have a computer system. It only goes back a certain amount of time. And so anyone that had a conviction previous to that had to get those physical documents from the clerk of court. So those were the two ways that we got around it in Illinois. I assume it would be something similar to that in New York. There is additional time that it will take to get those records. So if you feel like you're in that situation, you should go this week essentially and make those requests, because it may take some time to get those documents. I
want to just double up on what Vince said, is that the sooner you go, the better. It's really important right now to hustle to the courthouse, to wherever you need to go to get the documentation in. Per the Office of Cannabis Management, and the State Office of Cannabis Management has conducted training sessions for myself and my colleagues at the Department of Small Business Services. And so, following up on what Vince said, for proof of your conviction, you essentially need to go to the jurisdiction where that arrest, or that conviction happened. And as Vince was saying, the courts are definitely where you would go. Specifically to New York, the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services is a good place for you to start to track where that particular jurisdiction or where that courthouse might be, and then to follow up there. Another thing that the Office of Cannabis Management has suggested is that you essentially try to access your records through a universal background check. And so those are a couple of pieces of advice in terms of what the Office of Cannabis Management is suggesting.
Yeah, and you can,
go ahead.
that background check, you can do those online. They're usually will at least include the conviction. It might not include a bunch of additional information, but it's certainly better than nothing. And, just a little sort of trick for applications. It's certainly something I've done in the past where we've made the request for documents and haven't received them yet. You can type up a document that says what your conviction was, when you believe it was, what jurisdiction, indicate in the document that you've made the request, who exactly you requested it from. And then that would be the document that you would upload as a part of your application, with the idea being that the state will see that when they review it, and they will get in contact with you and say you need to supplement. That's a sort of a trick to buy yourself a little more time. There's never a guarantee that it'll work, but I have seen it work in multiple states at this point, where they're really not trying to disqualify people who actually qualify, who meet the eligibility requirements. They want to make sure as many that meet the eligibility requirements as possible get into the either the mix here for a license. So if all else fails, that's the approach that I would take just to keep myself in the game.
And I also, just from my own legal background, I can tell you guys that you can also go to the State Office of Court Administration. You can go online. They can provide you with your statewide criminal history. So if you have a record, it's about $95. You can go online and apply, and they will provide you with a report that provides your arrest. And I do believe it also states on there, if your record has been expunged, it would have some documentation on there. But you can also go to the New York State Office of Court Administration. Okay, so I want to make sure that we highlighted that for you. Now, I also want to point out this process, the conditional licenses, and we're going to put this in the chat too, so don't think we're not. So give us a few seconds as well. But this license phase that we're in right now, this is called conditional. So again, this is for those who are justice involved. So if you have a record, this is the phase, this is the time for you to try and apply. And the other piece I want to highlight is with this process and the applications, it's set up in a way where you will be asked to give 3 location areas, 3 boroughs that you would like, or 2 boroughs that you would like to have your brick and mortar store, right? You do not, at this present time, you do not have the access to that location until you are approved with the license. The license goes with that retail location, okay? You do not have a choice right now as to where you want to be set up. It's based on what OCM has available. They are doing build outs of retail locations. So do not go and purchase a building and think that you are going to apply for a license and then you are going to have your license in that store right now. It's not going to work that way. OCM, the Office of Cannabis Management, will tell you what retail shops they have built out and where your license can go. So I just want to be clear, because that, Vince, am I right on that?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because there are some companies out there right now that are trying to hook people in on real estate and get them to sign letters of intent or even purchase or lease agreements for real estate. And that's just not this process. The state, as you said, OCM is pre-selecting 150 locations. They've divided the state into 14 regions, and those 150 dispensaries will be within those 14 regions. And as a part of the application process, you actually have to list off your preferences. You have to choose 5 regions essentially, and list them in order of preference. And then if you win a license, you will be provided with an address, a location within that region. It will not be one that you have selected for yourself. You only get to select the region. The state gets to select the actual address, and they have a process in place for how they will do that. You just know that it will be within the region. There's no way to know until it's allocated to you what that exact address will be. But that is a key differentiator with this application process versus others. The state is securing the locations and building them out at their own expense and then subleasing them to this first 150 licensees. So instead of having the expense yourself, if you win a license, of having to capitalize the build out, the state will do that. And then you'll have a monthly sublease that you will have to pay. I'm sure it will incorporate some of the build out costs, and it'll essentially be like you have a sale leaseback agreement in place, but it's something that it'll make the process much cheaper. It just makes this a much bigger opportunity than opening this program has been in other states, because you don't have that. You'll still have the capital expenses of hiring and training staff, of bringing in your initial product, but that the main capital expense of having to build out a location will not fall on the licensees. It is being covered by the state of New York. So that's a key differentiator. And again, just because there's some shady companies out there trying to hook people on buying or renting real estate that just does not qualify, is not a part of this process. I'm glad that you brought that up as a warning. Nobody needs to go out and buy or rent any property. The state will be providing those locations to this first 150 licensees.
So just to be clear, the state has put together funding to do these build outs. Okay, now, when you hear the state has money, do not think that that means that they're not only just going to build out this retail shop and also pay your staff. No, that's not what the funding is for. It's not for staff. It's not for inventory. It's just for the build out.
Yeah.
So just to be clear on that. So I know there was a question in the chat. So I hope I answered that question for you. The funds that is currently out there is for build outs, not for inventory, not for staff, just for the build outs.
Yeah,
Now,
and
yep. go
yeah,
ahead.
the licensees will not be involved in the build out in any way. The state, through the dormitory authority, is hiring. They put out an RFP for design build teams. Those are the groups that will be provided with the capital to build these dispensaries out per requirements that are being set by the state. So you essentially will be given the keys to a built out location when the time comes. And there'll be a wall that you can put a mural on. You can obviously brand it the way you want, but the facility itself will be built out and the licensee will not be involved in that process. So this fund, $200 million fund that has been created for this build out, licensees will not see any of that money. They will obviously see the benefit of it, but they will not actually see any of the cash itself.
So think of it as having a doctor hand you over a baby and saying, good luck, God bless. You got
As
to get
scary
the
as that
diapers
sounds.
yourself. You got to get the milk yourself. You got to do everything else yourself. But yes, that's pretty much where things are at right now. There are a lot of conversations, just so you guys know, in terms of asking the state to provide assistance, other type of financial assistance to help with the retail aspect. And I think, Vince, you can talk a little bit about the social equity funds that, so that is out there and what that is supposed to look like a little bit.
Sure. So just like in some of these other states, Illinois most recently, there is talk about creating a social equity fund where licensees could apply for funding to help with some of these other costs that we've talked about, the training of staff, the hiring of staff, getting your, whether it's to hire somebody to help you create standard operating procedures for your business, that kind of thing. So it's, to my knowledge, nothing has been finalized yet, but there is talk around creating an additional fund that would help licensees, again, these first 150, to bring on capital in order to accomplish the sort of operationalization of these businesses and the initial operating of them, before they're able to get into the black and generate enough revenue where they don't need any additional infusions of capital. I do believe that these programs will exist. But again, to my knowledge, and Ken or Tanisha, please correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe anything has been finalized in that regard just yet.
That's right, Vince.
Yep, that's correct. You are absolutely correct on that. So stay tuned for that aspect of it. And I just want to mention to you guys, we're giving you a little bit of the highlights, in regards to the regulations, in regards to information pertaining to, the social equity, the applications. We will be having additional workshops within the following next Tuesday on sorry, I'm already saying October. I'm ready for October. I don't know why, but September 20th as well. So I will be putting up some information within the chat shortly on that. Ken, if you could, please put the link for B in the chat. I'm seeing a lot of questions in regards to people asking for your links. So please put
Ye-
those links in there.
You know, for
Um,
some reason, it's not allowing me to communicate with everyone. It just has the hosts and the panelists. So,
Okay, well, if you put it
um,
there, I will share it then.
okay, sounds
Okay,
good. I'll do that.
so put that there.
And
Um,
please do reach out. I have been, trying to get out as much as possible to let people know that we're here. I'm still, per Ms. Bertha Lewis's advice, really trying to get out there in person to connect with people across the city. But really, I think word of mouth is like everything, very important. So I am really looking forward to connecting with people, and so I want to make sure that I get you all the information you need. I'll put my email address in here as well.
So there's a question in the chat in regards to, is there an application template to review before submitting the actual application? The answer is yes. OCM has on their website the template of what the actual application, draft of the application looks like. So please go to OCM's website to take a look at it there, okay? Now, another important question that came up, and this one is a little tricky for you guys. I'm not quite sure how you want to respond to it, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read it off. It says several law firms are charging fees from $10,000 to $50,000 to assist with the application process. Do you feel that this is necessary to submit an application? Now, also, please keep in mind the application to apply for the the card license is $2,000. That's what the application cost is to the state. So in regards to what attorneys are charging, it's a little tricky. I'm going to leave that to you guys. I'm not going to answer that one.
All right, can I answer that with one word? Does that sound right? No. I could use more words. That does not sound right. For support with the application itself, that does not sound right. I can tell you, I could definitely beat your price at the Department of Small Business Services. If you call our hotline, 888, and I'll put this in the chat as well, 888-SBS, the number 4 NYC. You can connect to our support team that can walk you through and provide you with support on your application free of charge. So again, that is 888-SBS, the number 4 NYC. And so I think that actually, I'm glad that that question was asked and that you raised that up, Tanisha, because according to, just along the lines of what you and Vince were discussing around some of the other areas where people are really being squeezed and seeing an opportunity around real estate to provide a service that doesn't have value, there are a lot of professionals who are really trying to leverage this moment to deliver services that do not necessarily have that value that can be provided free of charge. At the Department of Small Business Services, we do that. We also are referring individuals, particularly people who are justice involved, who are looking to answer questions around expungements and tracking down documentation around their convictions, to work with an initiative that is being led by the Bronx Defenders. And so, I can provide more information on that as well. But that's actually a nonprofit that has started this Bronx Cannabis Hub. That's the name of it. And they're providing support to individuals who are justice involved and getting documentation together and really providing that demonstration of qualifications for the card license application. That as well is free of charge. So I encourage you to look to the state, to look to the city of New York, and some of our partners who are providing these services free of charge.
So maybe I will chime in just a little bit then. It's good that the SBS is doing that, but there are companies that are looking to partner with individuals to help them out with the application process, and also to be, a part of the process with them and be in the business with them. So keep in mind that there are opportunities for potential partnerships. There are companies that are looking to engage in operations with you. They are looking to assist with, providing you with the technical skills to fill out the applications and be partners with you. So there are those opportunities out there. And then there are companies, consultants who are in this space that are, helping out, that no, they are not charging $10,000 and $50,000.
I want to be very clear, Tanisha, you're absolutely right. I'm only
Yes.
speaking about those, those rates that that question was referring to. There are
Yes.
some services out there that are really, really, trying to squeeze you. And there are some legit services that are for pay, but those numbers, those figures that were cited are a little bit out
Yes.
there.
Yes. Vince?
Yeah, I had a one-word answer too, but I don't think I can say it on Zoom. Yeah,
Don't say.
I'll go with
We're being
unconscionable.
recorded.
Yeah, I'll go with
Thank you,
unconscionable.
Vince. Thank you. I have another word or two as well.
Yeah, I'll go with unconscionable. Listen, there are applications, in other states that are very substantive, where you need to provide a security plan, an operations plan, a business plan. I submitted, New Jersey comes to mind in the initial round of medical applications. The application I submitted there for my client was 3,000 pages long. This is not that application. This is a document collection exercise. It's an exercise in making sure you meet the eligibility requirements and getting all the documents that you need to prove that, and uploading them in the proper places in the portal. Nobody should be charging you $10,000, let alone $50,000 to do that. I don't believe those services add any value. It's only providing value to those law firms. It's not providing value to the individuals who are trying to apply. I do agree that there are groups out there that would be happy to help with this process and partner with you in some way, to be an operating partner, and those are things that you should consider. I think you would want to look at any deal that's being offered to you very closely and make sure that it makes sense for you. Again, this is a round of licenses that are meant for justice-involved individuals. Those should be the people who benefit, regardless of what anyone tells you. And so I think you need to be careful there, but there are certainly legitimate groups out there looking to partner, also legitimate services being offered that can be very helpful. But just in terms of helping prepare an application, I believe that there's plenty of free help out there that will be just as good, if not better, because people actually care about what they're doing and not just about a bottom line, that can help you get across the finish line before the 26th. I'm happy to help out in any way that I can. And, I can provide my email address. People can send me questions. And, there's no charge for anything that I do either. So, yeah, that's all I'll say on that topic, but I'm glad somebody brought it up. Yeah, I had heard even earlier today on another call about some, like they were calling it like a law firm membership agreement, where you were paying a certain amount of money per month. And they had been asking people to pay this from like last year even, and they were basically giving them an update a month, for $3,000 a month or something like that. And the updates were coming directly from OCM's website. So if you knew the right website to go to, you could get the same information, without being charged $3,000 for this, quote unquote membership. So yeah, no, but again, I'll stop there before I end up using that word that I'm trying to not use.
I hear you. I actually did hear something similar. So all of this to say that we're trying to be as transparent as possible to you. And we're just giving you our honest opinions in this space. There are a lot of predators out there. You're going to hear a lot throughout the rest of our workshop series about some of these predators. You are going to hear about, some folks probably admitting in the chats that they have already been taken advantage of. It's happening, it's not just here, but it's in other states as well. And for those of you who are not justice involved, but are looking to get into this cannabis space, but one of the questions that was asked is, what do you do in the meantime? I would suggest you start getting your paperwork together. You start looking at what the current application is asking for, and also start taking a look at whether or not you have a business that's ready to go. Do you have the right bank account? Do you have, the right percentage of ownership of your company? Because as soon as this phase of conditional is done, there will be a phase for the ROs, where it will be the regular, operator applications. So get ready. Think about what you want to do in this space, whether it's retail, whether it's delivery, whether it's, cultivation, think about what you want to do. Micro businesses, that's still an option that's out there. And gentlemen, please, chime in if I'm missing anything. But, there are going to be opportunities for those who do not have a conviction.
Absolutely. If I can chime in, Tanisha, I think one of the questions I saw was, what happens if I apply and do not get one of the card licenses? What do I do from there? I think it's important, as Tanisha was saying, to know that there are a host of other opportunities. This is just the first step. This is the first round of licenses that are being issued. There are 9 other license categories that Tanisha just alluded to, ranging from a cultivator license, which is essentially farming and growing, to a nursery license, to processing, distribution, delivery, right? On-site consumption, which is essentially, think about, the model of a bar or other,
Cafe.
restaurant type of business. Cooperatives, micro businesses, as Tanisha said, many opportunities. And so if you aren't eligible, or if you don't actually get the card license, there will be many other chances down the road to be a part of this industry. But what I think is important to know is that the opportunities don't just exist in the cannabis industry, the so-called plant touching industry. There are a number of other industries that benefit and that will benefit from what this industry is going to be bringing to the table. You'll have companies, there are going to be opportunities in packaging and labeling, right, for this product. There's going to be, a need for security businesses, obviously, as we have, to kind of convert from, the state of affairs where a lot of financial institutions are not banking with these businesses because it still is a federally prohibited substance. So there are going to be a whole host, marketing, branding, all sorts of businesses that are going to benefit from the fact that this industry is now a regulated legal industry in New York. And so I think it's just important. I want to restate kind of what's at stake here. We're talking about nearly an industry that's going to be projected to produce nearly $1.3 billion in sales within its first year. And we're talking about between 19 and 24,000 jobs created within the first 3 years. So it's important to appreciate that, these 150 conditional adult use retail dispensary licenses are not the be all end all. There are going to be a whole host of other opportunities if you don't qualify, or if you apply and you don't get one, to take part in the economic benefit from this industry in New York.
And I also want to chime in just to say that also we can't forget nonprofits. There is a component for nonprofits as well, to
Absolutely.
have an opportunity to apply for licenses. So moving back to some of these questions, this is great. Keep the questions coming. We still have quite a bit of time. So we have about 33 questions in the Q&A. So I'm just going through a lot of them we've answered already. But there are quite a few that we still have not touched upon. So one of the questions that was asked is in regards to, what if a spouse has a significant legal history? Can they be an applicant?
Yes, so the spouse themselves could be the applicant, or since a spouse is one of those relationships that qualifies, you could be considered justice involved by virtue of your spouse having a cannabis-related offense or conviction.
And then someone put in the chat, only 125 licenses. No, it's 150 licenses that are going to be issued for the conditional for the card.
Yeah, and that's, I'm not sure if they meant that's a lot or a little, but for a state the size of New York, that's a very small number. Colorado has 600 dispensaries and only about 4 million people. So, there will be additional rounds of dispensary licenses that will come behind this one, but 150, again, this really goes to the opportunity that's presented here, because you're going to have significant runway. You'll be the first dispensaries in the state. The state is paying for the build out. So they're really setting this up so that, the right people will be in this industry and have all the opportunity in the world to be successful. These should be revenue generating businesses just based on the fact that there's so few of them in a state the size of New York.
Now, here's an interesting question. So for the people who live in New Jersey, is there any hope to apply in New York City? You got New Jerseys already. Why are you coming to New York? Right, Vince?
Well, the answer is yes, there's still an opportunity. Again, 51% of the entity has to be held by justice-involved individuals, and that's defined as people with cannabis-related offenses in New York, including one person who's got to have at least 30% and has to have that significant presence in New York. But that does leave 49% of the ownership that can go to people who don't live in New York. So if you are from New Jersey and you have the ability to partner with people who meet these other eligibility requirements, you can absolutely be on a license and potentially a license application and potentially win a license.
And now I have another question for you, Vince. Just like Illinois, will New York have a transporter license?
It does have a distribution license. It's not clear when it's going to become available. In the meantime, they're allowing the businesses that they have licensed so far. So right now it's just cultivation and manufacturing. Obviously the next step are these retail dispensaries. They're giving them the ability to distribute themselves. Whether or not they will remove that once they do have these distributor licenses and companies online is a different question. But for now, they're allowing the licenses that they have made available the opportunity to do it. But yes, there will absolutely be a separate license category for this.
So we have a question from Assemblymember Jackson's office. Do you have feedback on the mayor's newly announced program to allow individuals who have a cannabis conviction to apply for a business license? I think we kind of answered that a little bit earlier, but just to restate it.
I think that question is with respect to the support for card license applicants. And the support that's being provided, essentially, the mayor allocated almost $5 million to provide support for the equitable development of the cannabis industry. And where SBS's focus is right now is in providing support to individuals applying to the card license to get support on identifying what your requirements are, helping you put together your documentation, and then walking you through the application process. So that is being provided with support, obviously, from Mayor Eric Adams and his executive budget. So to get access to that, as I mentioned, the phone number you call, you reach out to the SBS hotline. It's 888-SBS, the number 4 NYC, or you can go to the website for Cannabis NYC, which is the city's initiative, and that's nyc.gov/CANNABIS, cannabis. So nyc.gov/cannabis, and you can get information on how to get support from the city of New York for your application.
So Ken, can you tell us, because the city is now working with the state to get the word out, which you have been doing such a great job, including tonight, providing information. Can you tell us about any other exciting news that the city is doing in cannabis? Has there been any information in regards to what the mayor is looking to do in terms of funding?
Well, no announcements in terms of funding. That's definitely above my pay grade. But I can say that's an important topic. I think that is, the way to demonstrate where the priorities are, providing adequate financial support, and that's something which the city is committed to doing in those communities that we're looking to target. However, I can say that a big priority of the mayor's and Commissioner Kim is identifying the credible messengers and working with community-based organizations that have access and that have relationships with the people in the communities we're looking to serve. And so I think I don't have a date, I don't have a number, but I think that there will be opportunities for organizations that are positioned in such a way to support the city in the work that we're doing to conduct outreach, to help get the word to people who are going to be applying for the card licenses and for other license opportunities. And then, like I said, getting support around the so-called ancillary businesses, standing up businesses in other spaces that are not necessarily plant touching. So yes, I think that is a big part of the plan for equity is figuring out ways to partner with the credible messengers, with organizations, and provide support for them to help us in doing this work.
And Ken, we have a question in the chat. Can you say where SBS is located?
Yes, our office is at One Liberty Plaza on the 11th floor. That's where we're located. But a lot of the support that we provide, you don't have to actually come to our office and be there in person. You can get that support by calling our hotline or by visiting our website. And we have a number of webinars and trainings. In addition to where our office is located, we have a series of business solution centers, BSCs, located across the 5 boroughs. So you can find the location of the business solution center in your borough that's closest to you, and that might be the place to get the in-person services that you need as well. So all of that information is available on our website, nyc.gov/SBS.
Thank you, Ken. Just one more time. So a couple of folks are asking the question again. If you've never been arrested and do not have relatives who qualify, if you've never been arrested and do not have relatives who qualify, you can't apply. That is correct. Right now, this is a conditional license for those who are justice involved. It's only those with records. So you will have to wait until this phase is over, until they open up for the regular application process to begin for the regular licenses for those who've never been convicted. Okay, so I hope we're clear on that. And another question is, anyone who is an MWBE with a company who has been convicted, I would like to partner up and fund. Sandra, okay. Sandra, if you're asking to partner up, we'll provide your information and hopefully someone on the chat will be able to link up with you, okay?
Yeah, that actually goes to the other question about whether, if you haven't been convicted yourself or have a family member, you can always find somebody who meets the eligibility requirements and attempt to partner with them. That would be the one way that you could take part in this round. Otherwise, no, you would have to wait for, the following round of applications in order to do that. But if you have a friend or, again, through a group session like this or some other meet and greet, you're able to connect with somebody who's interested in partnering with you for some reason, whether it's because you bring operational experience or capital or whatever it is, you may be able to create some kind of partnership in order to apply. So there is that opportunity, though. Obviously the most direct way is to be eligible yourself.
And then another question in regards to information pertaining to the different sizes for the build outs. No, none of that information has been put out just yet by DASNY in regards to what the sizes of the retail shops will be exactly. They're still looking for locations in the different regions. They have not completed that process yet. So we cannot tell you exactly what the spacing will look like, what the wall colors will be, whether it will, all we can tell you is the basics. They will definitely make sure that it's ADHD, sorry, it's getting late. It's handicap,
ADA. Yeah,
ADHD. Thank you,
Yeah.
handicap accessible. They will also make sure that it has the proper ventilations, the proper HVAC system for ventilation. They will also make sure that it has proper security for the onset of the doors. But in terms of security systems and so forth, that information we do not have fully. I believe personally that you will have to, get your own security system. You'll probably have to hire your own security for your retail shop. I do not believe that the state will pay for your security. Okay.
So actually, I have some pretty good visibility into the DASNY process. The
Oh, okay.
locations that they're looking for are 3,500 to 4,500 square feet. And the RFP that they put out did indicate as one of the requirements, not only the sort of inventory software and all of the IT that goes around that, but the security equipment as well. So I actually think that the plan, at least initially, and this may change obviously depending on what happens with this fund, but the plan is to provide basically what, like you said, here's a baby, now go and take care of it, and that it'll have all of the things that the regulations require, including your point of sale terminals and your security equipment. That's what I believe the intention is.
And we have a question from, it looks like Assembly Member Jackson. Speaking to Commissioner Kim, sorry, I lost it for a second. I was told that the person with the record had to be the main owner of the company, and partner up isn't allowed.
So the person who has, you have to have, again, 51% of the entity has to be owned by people who are justice involved, however they qualify, whether it's by virtue of themselves having the conviction or a family member who qualifies having the conviction. And 30% has to be held by a single individual who, again, is justice involved and is considered the sole, having sole control of the applicant, which means that they have the ability to direct the operation. So even though they would, if you met the minimum requirement, they would have 30% of the license. You're checking a box on the application that says that individual not only is justice involved, but they have sole control. And then you'd also have to provide documentation on them having that qualifying business that we talked about, again, at least a 10% stake in a business that was profitable for 2 years. And then you would also have to show for that individual that they have those significant presence in New York. So that is accurate, but I think it jives with what we've been saying throughout the presentation.
So we had another question. What about those who weren't convicted? Will there be any opportunities for CBD license and tobacco permits? I haven't heard anything in regards to that.
I don't know either.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I'm sorry, David, we don't have an answer for you on that. But if we do hear something regarding the CBD and tobacco permitting, we'll definitely get back to you on that. Now, there's another question about cannabis infusion. Damaris, if you could clarify exactly what you mean by that. You didn't quite put a full question in, you just put the term. So can you just clarify exactly what you're asking in terms of cannabis infusion? Thanks, appreciate that. And then there's a question as to how soon after September 26th will the RO applications be available?
And so you mean the next round? That's really anybody's guess. I've heard as soon as the end of this year. I've heard the middle of next year. I couldn't give you a specific date. I really think it's anybody's guess at this point.
Yeah, I pretty much heard the same thing. At one point I heard it was probably late March into early April. So the timeline has been fluctuating a bit. So I would say definitely for those of you who are interested, to definitely please make sure that you stay in touch with the Office of Cannabis Go online, take a look at their website, because they are posting a lot of information there as it pertains to, you know, the next rounds and what they're looking to put out in terms of licenses. If you haven't attended any of the Zoom meetings that they've been posting, I would strongly encourage you to attend. And it's a lot of information. They're putting out a lot of stuff in regards to the regulations. They're putting out a lot of information in regards to, you know, who's receiving the licenses. So please, I would definitely strongly encourage you to go and take a look. Okay.
We should
The
probably
time-
put that in the chat too,
I-
Tanisha.
Yep, I was just about to say,
Awesome.
my angel in the sky is going to put the link for the Office of Cannabis Management on there. So she's going to do that shortly.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to say that because if you go to our Cannabis NYC website, you will see multiple links to the state's website, because they are the entity that's issuing these licenses. They are the entity that is issuing the rules and regulations, and we're essentially communicating those out. And so that's important that you go directly to the source to get some of those questions answered.
And I'm seeing a lot of requests for copies of this PowerPoint. I'm glad that it's impressed you guys enough that you want it. Thank you so much. Put your emails in the chat and we will definitely send you a copy of it. So once again, in the chat, not the Q&A, but in the chat, throw your email into the chat and we will make sure that we copy it and we will send you the link. My goodness. All right. Everyone wants it. Okay. I guess I did a good job on that. So, all right. I see it. Yes, I see the thumbs up. Another question that came, Ken, this is for you. Is there a difference between, is there a difference between the BE certified versus MBE certified? I believe they meant, you know what? I'm gonna leave that for you. I think they're
At the
trying to ask
city?
if B, yeah, on the city level.
Yeah.
I think they think B is a certification.
Yeah, the Black Entrepreneurs Program does not have a certification program. The Department of Small Business Services does house the city's MWBE certification program. And MWBE, again, stands for Minority or Women Owned Business Enterprise. And so that's the only certification at the city for businesses. So yeah, hope that clears it up.
Lost you for a second. I do apologize. So in the interest of time, wait, oh my goodness, hold on one more second. Yes, I will send a copy of the workshop. And yes, I'm good. Someone's asking when's the next workshop. So I'm actually going to pull that up for you guys right now. So give me 1 second. I'm glad that you guys are really taking this, you know, in, and we're providing you with the information that you need. We try to be straight to the point and provide you with as much as we can in the interest of time that we have. So I will definitely put up the next website, next webinar right now. So give me 1 second here. I'm going to share my screen to you guys. Give me 1 second here, just pull this up. And of course, I have Ken on my screen. Ken, you're blocking my screen here, so hold on. So here we go. So the next workshop is September 20th, 6:30 to 8 p.m. It's called Cannabis Industry. It's not just a nickel bag. Learn about the many different business opportunities within the cannabis industry beyond cultivation and dispensaries. So Kristen Jordan, who is not only just an advocate and an attorney and an entrepreneur herself, Kristen is also in the cannabis space for many years. She's created her company, Park Jordan LLC. And she is going to have a great panel as well from folks that are in the cannabis space who are going to be talking to you about the ancillaries, all the different other opportunities that are in the cannabis space. So I encourage you to not only join Be on time because this one is going to fill up very quickly. The list for attendees on this one is through the roof. I don't know if it's because it's Kristen. Kristen is known throughout the US. So folks are excited to hear her speak and also to get information from her team and the panel that she will have. So I encourage all of you to please make sure that you are in attendance for September 20th at 6:30. It's going to go till 8 o'clock. You'll be receiving your Zoom link for this particular workshop. If you do not receive your invite for this, please, please, please go to info@Black Institute, email them to get more information, to tell them that you attended this workshop. And make sure that one, you tell them you attended it so you can get your credit, so you can get your, well, I can't tell you what's going to happen on October 4th, but just make sure you tell them you attended. Oh, I was just told by the other angel in the sky for this Zoom that it's going to be the same link. So I repeat, save this link. You're not going to get a new link. It's going to be the same link. Thank you so much, Sharnika, for that. You made people's lives a whole lot easier. So it's going to be the same link. The link that you use tonight, you're going to use it on September 20th. Okay. But if you do have any questions that we have not been able to answer, please definitely reach out to us. You can definitely reach out to me as well. My email is Tunisha, TUNISHA @tscgny.com. So I'm going to repeat that again, and my other angel's going to put it in the chat. It's Tunisha, TUNISHA @tscgny.com. Okay. So thank you so much, Assembly Member. I truly appreciate that. So in the interest of time, I'm going to ask if there is one more question or two more questions, something that we did not answer for you earlier. Please put it into the Q&A right now. Oh, here's a good one. When will the card winners be announced? That's like the lotto. I have no idea.
Yeah, unknown at this point. It's difficult. It'll be a function of how many applications they get, which I imagine will be a very large number, and how long it takes them to go through all of those applications.
Yeah, unfortunately, the system is not that simple. Not everything is listed out. We still got to wait and see. And that's what this is. It's a wait and see process. Last question. Do you have a sense of timing of when the distribution regulations and applications will be released? Do you think the information will be dropped by November 22nd or beyond? The distribution regulations.
Yeah, I assume that license will be made available at some point before the end of next year, but I couldn't give you a more definitive timeline than that. It's really hard to say.
Okay. And Vince, can you just give us your email real quick, please?
Yeah, I put it in the chat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, your chat's not, for some reason tonight, it's not sharing. So I do apologize. So just say it out loud and we'll make sure that our angels in the Zoom will put it out there for us.
Yep, it's Vince at WHLPLANT.com. Vince at WHLPLANT.com.
All right, so our angels on the Zoom, thank you so much. It just popped up. We got two angels out there working for us tonight. So thank you so much. We truly appreciate it. To all of you attendees, whoa, I mean, record numbers tonight. I think we hit 60. Thank you so much to all of the attendees for the great questions that you asked us. Again, if we miss something, we'll definitely get it to you in terms of a response. We'll definitely make sure that we get the PowerPoint out to you guys sooner rather than later. And again, my name is Tunisha Walker Miller, and thank you so much for being with us tonight. We truly appreciate you taking the time. We truly appreciate our panelists for taking the time, for being with us tonight and answering all of these hardcore questions and looking into breaking into the cannabis industry. Business 101, do we have the right weed business sense? Thank you so much. Good night. Farewell.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.